Hi group. Sorry this video is a little bit late. I've already recorded it once. It wouldn't upload. So take two. Hopefully I don't get a shelf pulled down on top of me today. Alright. So Julie wanted me to make videos about special populations, and I already did the one for prenatal yoga, but this one is just going to be about chair yoga. This is going to drive me crazy that it's so off center. Let's see. Better, worse, I don't know. Don't you just love the professional camera, the camera work? All right. So, special populations. We have groups of individuals that have come to the studio that are amputees, whether it's hands, arms, feet, legs, it just varies. It varies. A lot of postures can be done without our hands. You know, we can use our forearms for many, many things. And some of that we've kind of talked about through all the other modifications. You know, plank can be on your arms or on your forearms. You can do dolphin instead of downward facing dog. Any any warrior poses are going to be fine. Doesn't matter if your hands are not there. They might need assistance getting up off the floor, but that's a case by case thing. You might have someone that comes to class that can't get up or down off the floor, and that's I see that in the older generations. I have a couple of women that used to come to class that were in their 70s and might have had knee issues. One lady was waiting to have a double knee replacement. Another lady just she'd had a bad back for a while. So they're just different things that wouldn't allow them to get down to the floor and back. Whether it's through balance, they could be missing a leg, there could be a limb missing, or just a limb difference. So you can use a chair in a yoga practice. And later when we talked about prenatal yoga, I talked about how holding on to something for balance. You could use the wall, the counter, a chair is always there. We have lots of chairs at 7. They're tucked away, but we have them there when we do our classes for traumatic brain injuries, which I do. I teach those classes. We use the chairs for those individuals as well because they may have issues with being dizzy, or just there could be a myriad array of differences here for an individual that needs a chair. You could teach an entire chair yoga class. I highly, highly encourage you to take Molly's adaptive yoga class on, I believe it's Saturdays at 1. She is a quadriplegic she's one of our instructors. She went through our YTT program. Had an accident on New Year's Eve. She fell and hit her head. She was laughing about something, and she threw her head back and started to tip back off of a porch railing and pulled herself forward and ended up only falling, I think she's 3 feet, and hit her head in just the right way where she paralyzed herself and crushed some vertebrae. Anyway, and that happened right before she graduated from YTT. She would tell you the story if you asked, I'm sure. I just want to double check that I tell you the right day. I believe it's Saturday at 1. I should have been prepared. 11. What? It's at 11, not 1. 11 a.m. on Saturdays. Adaptive Yoga with Molly. She teaches from her wheelchair. She can also teach a complete yoga class without being able to do her yoga class. Move through all the postures, which is amazing. But today I'm going to talk about chair yoga. I just encourage you to reach out to Molly or to take Molly's class. Might still be complimentary, and you'll learn a lot from her. It's always important to remember that if you have someone that comes to class in a wheelchair, any sort of adaptive technology, whether it is a wheelchair, a cane, a walker, an adaptive speech device, those are parts of someone's body. You wouldn't just reach out and touch somebody's body. Well, I hope you wouldn't without asking permission. So you wouldn't reach out and touch their chair or their device or their tools without asking first. It is an extension of their body. And this is something that I teach kids from a very, very young age. As soon as they are old enough to come to school, we teach them how, this wheelchair or their wheelchair would be an extension of their body, and you wouldn't just go up and grab something. So just remember that if you have anybody that comes in, maybe they take off a prosthetic limb and set it in a cubby, unless they ask you for assistance, I would not touch that. Please don't touch it. Generally, they will come in and say something to you, that they might need assistance or that they're going to need a chair. You'll know. You'll figure it out quite easily when they come to your class. So a chair, as you can see, just lifts the ground up to meet me. I can sit in it, I can lean upon it, I can hold on to it if I stand up. Ideally, you would want the legs, the feet, to be able to touch the floor. Now, in a wheelchair, they generally have foot plates or a bar that's going to lift the floor up to meet them, so their feet will rest. If you have a chair and their feet don't quite touch the ground, you can, as long as they're not going to stand up on these blocks, that you can bring blocks underneath their feet. So if there's a limb difference and you want to have something solid under the feet, the blocks can come under. You want to make sure too that if you are having them come to the edge of their seat, that the chair is going to stay stable behind them. You don't want a tippy chair. You could have a chair with arms. You might have a chair without arms. Wheelchairs generally have arms, but they can be removed, so it would just depend on the person that's practicing. But the chairs at the studio do not have arms. As you can see, my chair doesn't have arms. I'm just using a basic metal chair that you can, that we have at the studio. So if you were trying to do things like forward folds, simple. Feet are on the chair. They're a little bit forward in their seat. I'll turn this way just so you can see the peripheral. I can sit up nice and tall here. I'm sitting in my 90-degree angle. This would be an easy seat. If they need the support of the chair back, they want to scoot their tailbone all the way back so they can still sit up nice and tall. Forward folds are easy, still the same thing. Now, what you might encounter is if someone has a traumatic brain injury or they've had concussions, whatever it is, that taking their head below their heart might cause them to be dizzy. So always be mindful of that. This is going to be a safe forward fold, so their head is not below their heart. Obviously hanging all the way down with the head coming down, that can cause some dizziness and they could fall over. So you just want to be mindful of that. Simple things like if you're doing and you can put their mat underneath the chair too, so they feel like they're part of the class if you want to lay out a mat. But you can do figure fours from a chair, crossing the ankle over. I'm scooted forward in the seat, just crossing one ankle over. You can lean into that, get a little deeper stretch. Even doing something like eagle, where you could wrap the legs and you could still do eagle from this posture, from a chair. You can still sit in the chair and take all of that. Just want to, of course, make sure you're doing it on both sides. Now, if they can't bring their leg up all the way, you can use a block and cross, the ankle in front of the shin. So I know you can't quite see it, but I have a block here underneath my left foot. My left ankle is crossed over in front of my right leg. You can still do side stretches. A hand, if you take your tailbone over a little bit. Now, I obviously don't take up the entire seat of the chair. You might have someone who is a little bit wider or larger. So holding on to the metal bar of the chair, or you can turn to the side. So if we're going to do side stretches and they need the support of the back of the chair, side stretch that way. Now, of course, it's going to be difficult if they need to get up and move, but I can swivel around without needing to get up and worry about changing my position. I'm changing my position in the chair, but I'm not standing up to do it, right? So twists are the same. You can grab hold of the back of the chair and pull around. You can grab hold of the sides. If they do, if there's space beside their body on their chair, you can take your hand to the side of the chair and lean either side. Even things like tree pose. You can still do things like tree pose so that they still feel included in the practice. And you can get really creative with what you're doing with the chair as well. If they want to do a sun salutation or cat-cow, so I'm just going to turn, you can obviously would turn the chair too, but here is your cow and here is cat, rounding it out. They can still, Inhale, arms reaching up. Exhale, hinge at the waist to forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale into your forward fold. Now obviously they can't do a tricep push-up, but you could. You could just keep pressing against the floor or against the chair. Inhaling into that upward facing dog, and then rounding the spine, coming into downward facing dog. However, you can also, if they just need the chair for balance, here they can hold on, inhale, forward fold, inhale, halfway coming up, back into their forward fold. You can do push-ups here. You can still get a tricep push-up. Downward facing dog, you would be a little bit more difficult for upward facing dog, but still arching the back. And downward facing dog, especially if they get dizzy, bringing their head below. Another way is to turn the chair around so they can do it from the seat. They would still be able to. Now, balance is their issue, but they still want to participate. You know, it'll be a little bit more difficult if you're a taller person, but you can still do tree pose. You still have your chair there for support. Let's see, what else? Lunges. Okay, scoot that back a little bit. So lunges you can do while seated. One way is to turn so the side of your body is against the back of the chair. So say I'm taking a high lunge. My right leg, because I want to take the lunge on my right side first. So I'm going to sit sideways on the chair. My right leg stays in front of me. I'm holding onto the back of the chair. And the chair supports my front leg and the groin of my back leg. Now you can take the bent knee. Here they have a long leg. They could bring one arm up. They could bring both arms up. For warrior two, same thing. You're just turning your chest towards the front. That front leg, so my right leg is still facing forward. My back leg, same shape. Now balance poses, of course, like if you're going to do reverse warrior, and that's not a balance shape, but a side stretch. They could still do it. It's not going to be as easy to do because you want to make sure they're not going to get dizzy. So they can hold on, come back, side angle lunge. So a lot of things are still very accessible to the chair. That would be the most modified version. Now say they wanted to do something a little more challenging. So I'm going to take my high lunge again, except this time I'm doing it off to the side. My left leg is in front, my right leg is behind. I'm in my high lunge this way. I'm precariously perched on the edge of the chair. Well, not quite precariously. I don't have as much of my body supported. Again, side lunge. My tailbone is kind of lifted away from the floor or from the chair, and I just have my front leg barely resting on the chair. So this is going to provide less support. If they need the chair in another way, they want to still do lunges, they could come to the side. Here's my high lunge. Here's my warrior one. Here's my warrior two. They could still take their side, if they wanted to do like a side angle pose, triangle pose. The chair is pretty versatile, which is nice because you can sit upon it, you can lean upon it. You can use the chair in restorative yoga. That's kind of a different topic. I don't use a chair in restorative yoga, but it can be used for back bends. You know, if you're working on back bends and they need support. But for the purposes of adaptive yoga, or for using it as a tool for different bodies and working with different populations, you can still take, your warrior threes. You can still use it for, standing half moon. There's a lot you can do with the chair. Think of it as just an extension of a body part, which is what I like to think of for most of our, when we have most of our tools. So, you can still put blocks under the feet. For Savasana, one nice thing for Savasana is to take a bolster behind the back, setting it up, so that they can actually relax their body against the pillow. Because otherwise they would just have to sit up tall. But if we can tuck a bolster, a long bolster behind the back, then they have that. You know, if they still have that mobility, you can still bring the feet up so that you can still do your round angle. Maybe it's just one leg at a time. You know, arm stretches are still going to you know, be quite the same. Tuck the knees in. So, but using a chair in classes, it's just always an option if you need it. If you know, even with leg extensions, they can still use a strap. I didn't bring a strap out, but pretend like I have my strap. Here's my invisible strap. They can still take some of the same stretches. Now their twists might look a little different. You know, they might not be able to do your reclined twist or your supine twist, but they can still, you know, they can still get a good compression twist. Most things are chair accessible. I like chair yoga. It's great. It's really a great option for people that just don't have the ability to get down on the floor for whatever reason. And, you know, if you had arms, you could do weight lifting. Like you can like hover above the chair. I know Molly likes to teach that for core strength, lifting up and down. And all you have to do is do that about 5 or 6 times and it starts to burn. It's pretty incredible. You know, lifting the legs over and over, keeping the core engaged. They're still going to get a nice core workout. It can be cross knee, you know, depending. Not their legs are obviously, if they're paralyzed, you're obviously going to have limitations there. But honestly, you're probably going to be more, you will know. I don't think that anybody will just come into class and not, you know, that would be limited so much that you wouldn't be able to teach a regular class. But it's just another way to look at the special populations of individuals that might come to your classes. I love teaching the traumatic brain injury classes. I love teaching the special populations because I really, truly, honestly feel that yoga is for everyone. It doesn't matter your weight, your size, your ability, your disability, your cognitive function. You know, I've been teaching yoga to little kids in my classroom, kindergarten through 3rd and 4th grade. Moving your body is just so therapeutic. Being in a room of people that are there to help, you know, heal themselves. Well, you know, you can't. Let's try to work on, you know, making themselves feel better. Obviously, we can't heal ourselves to a certain extent, but it's just, when Patanjali decided to write those Yoga Sutras, and he said that, you know, we need to be all inclusive, that yoga is for everyone. I really, that is very important to me, that it's accessible to everyone. And I'll go out of my way to make sure that people that come to class are able to access, you know, the postures that we're doing to the best of their ability through modifications, through progressions. That's why I teach the way I do. You know, I don't teach, you know, those super high level classes. It's just not for me. We all have our little niche, and we all know where we fit best. And to me, this is just where there's something in my pants. It's like sticking and poking me. We just kind of figure out what works best for us and go with it. And it might take you a little while to figure out where you fit best. I think it took me a couple of years to figure out where I wanted to go with this and where I fit best. It'll come to you. You'll figure it out. You definitely will. I am not sad that this is the last video that I have to make because I feel like I'm not very good at this. I have, you know, enjoyed sharing all of my, well, what I could with you, my yoga knowledge with you. Please, 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 please reach out if you have questions about this or anything else. You know, you can always come back and reference this. If there's other things you want to learn about chair yoga, please reach out. I know I say that all the time, but you can call me, email me, text me. Calling is probably not the best because I'm usually working somehow, some way. So texting is great. I'm not so great about answering emails right away. Texting is probably best. Reach out to me on social media. Whatever you need. I will see you soon.